Hey, it's Don, the auction professor here. Today we're going to talk about another item that I do very, very well with, something that sells across the board. It's vintage cameras. Let's hop over there right now and show you exactly what we're talking about. So here we are with some film cameras. Now these are all just film cameras. Back when I was in high school, I was on the yearbook staff and the newspaper staff, and we got to use some very high-end cameras to produce the photos. We also did the development and the whole works. Wasn't a computer to do this back then. We did have a computer, and I believe it was a 286 with just green screen text, and all we used it for was the typesetting and printing that up. And from there, they would be cut out of a piece of paper and then pasted onto a mock-up of the pages. It was all done by hand, the photos, the whole works. Had to blow them up to the size you wanted. You had to crop them. You had to mark them for the page they went on. It was a huge process to do a yearbook back in the day. So I've always liked and messed with cameras since I was about, say, 16 was the first time I had a real nice camera in my hand. Most people think that a lot of these aren't worth that much money, or they don't know enough about them to invest the kind of money you need. High-end cameras or even vintage cameras is not for everybody. You could lose some money if you make a bad investment and things along that line. So always be careful and research everything before you purchase it. Make sure you understand how the camera is supposed to work, whether it has batteries that need replacing that you may or may not even be able to get anymore. So just think about all those aspects before you buy them. Now, Leica is one of the most well-known brands that I run into that usually makes me the most money. Not necessarily the highest amount for a camera like this, but one of the best ones to get. Leicas will always sell. This is just the body, no lens, just as you see it. Most people look at this and don't think much of it. It's not very fancy, not a lot of dials, not much chrome. Many factors help distinguish the value on something like this. It's a small camera. It's nothing really that spectacular looking to the naked eye. But this one went for $745. Here's an early Nikon rangefinder. Now, a rangefinder has basically like two different setups. There'll be a lens that you can see the object, and then there'll be actually a rangefinder built into it. And you superimpose them. You'll center the focus in. Once they line up correctly where your rangefinder and the viewfinder match up on top of each other, basically, that'll be exact distance it is apart. And on the old ones, you'd have to manually address your dials to match the distances. Some of the newer ones obviously did it for you. But rangefinders are one of the areas that I always look for. Now, my explanation is just a basic breakdown. There's a little more to it. Most rangefinders you can tell by the facing of it, and you'll see multiple spots on it where there's what looks like a separate lens. That's usually just a rangefinder. Rangefinders always go very well for us. Some of them are junk, but the majority of the ones we run into and mess with are really nice items, like this Nikon SP, one of the earliest versions of this. Just a nice example. A lot of the high-dollar ones either come from Germany or from Japan, in all honesty. So this is just a real good example. $839. Now here's a Ricoh. This is a GRIV. This is just a point and shoot, like over-the-counter that most people wouldn't think would be that high or pricey. This one went for almost $800 as well. These are high-quality cameras. They're not junk, even without all the features and the point-and-shoot part of it. They're just nice cameras. If you've got to use one of these in the past or played around with something like this, you'd get the difference for sure. Now, I don't use any of these SLR cameras anymore at all. We're all digital. I use a Nikon D5300. We just got a Nikon D7300 series, and that's the new one we're going to mess with from this point going forward. So I'm a Nikon person, always have been. Now, I have had other cameras, but Nikon is just it for me. As long as you got the right lens and all that combination, they just do a wonderful job. Now, here's another Leica. Now, this is a whole setup. This is the whole lot. It's got the camera, lens, the whole works on this one. $1,578. Some of these accessories can go for a couple $100 on their own. Lenses I always grab up if they're still working. You got to test them. You got to know what to look for. You got to look for chips and dings and things along that line on any of this stuff before you buy it. You better darn well know something about it. Another rangefinder as well. Rangefinders were like the predecessor to SLR, single lens reflex cameras, and that's mostly what most people use. Even new cameras, digital cameras, DSLR, digital single lens reflex. Now the mirror size has a lot to do with the quality and the size of the cameras. There's medium formats, large formats. 35mm is a small format, just the standard format. Now this is a Rollei. It has a Carl Zeiss lens. Zeiss is in the title. Carl Zeiss is a very well-known German manufacturer, as is Rollei. The first high-dollar camera I ever found was a small, tiny Rollei that I thought nothing of when I bought it for $299. We sold it for like $278 in non-working condition. This is like the bomb when you talk about Rolleis, Rollei Flex. This is what you see in the old movies, looking down to a image at the top. I've had a few of these, nowhere near this nice, nowhere near with the case or any of this stuff. Even damaged and dinged, you can still get several $100 for any of these Rollei Flex. People will fix these up and spot on match them to the original condition. So $1,247 on this one. And again, don't get into this field if you don't have the money or at least the basic knowledge on this, because you can really lose if you don't pay attention. Single little issues can affect the value on a camera. Now this is a nice setup, another Rollei Flex as well as the last one. Planer, it's a Carl Zeiss lens, as most all of these have. Now, obviously, you could have had ones with other lenses on them, but Carl Zeiss is usually what I find. It's a German company that made the cameras and a German lens as well, so $895. Now, this one surprises most people, but any of these advertising ones like this are very, very scarce. Didn't make many of them, just a handful back in the day. This is a 1930s Kodak Campfire Girls, and it's well marked across the board. I believe it's on the lens too. Yeah, Campfire Girls, right on the lens. Real nice Kodak version here. It's a vest pocket one. It would slide right into your pocket. I've seen the standard version of these. They don't go for very much money, but the rare editions like this are awesome. Same with the Boy Scouts. There's a Boy Scout version of this same basic one that I have seen. Now here's an Ansco studio camera. This is a large format. Now, I'm putting this one in here because people think that these big bellowed cameras are the bomb, and these are the ones you want over anything else. Voigtlander is the manufacturer here on the lens only. Ansco made the studio aspect of camera itself. I'll pass up these to go for the little small snap and shoots or any of those, or rangefinders, only for the one basic fact is there's less moving parts. It's harder to make sure this works than it is for just the small cameras. And they go about the same price. Sometimes the rangefinders can go double what these do. So watch what you invest in. The bigger, the more expandable the camera doesn't mean it's worth more money or that it's a less of a risk or a quicker sale. Less people collect these types than some of the other ones. Now, the people who collect these are dedicated, so, you know, it's a toss-up on this. I would avoid this to get the smaller, easier to ship, less issue camera, though. Now, here's a Nikon F. Most of the early Nikons I mess with, they all have the basic same structure. At the top of the head here is an F. That is the model number. Nikkor made almost all of the lenses on here. There's other names as well, as you can see on here. So any of these types are good. This has a low serial number. All of these have serial numbers on them. Chrome, that's what I look for in an early Nikon, is chrome. I love the chrome, or stainless steel, I should say. Now here's an Asahi Pentax. This is a specific kind. It's a vintage one too. It's a medium format. Has a large mirror, a decent size. It can print larger sizes, basically for the professional market, for like magazine ads and things along that line. Really nice one here, $755. Again, know what you're doing. Look them all up. Know something about cameras in generally. What should or shouldn't work, how it works, how the lenses go on, all of that kind of stuff. Without knowing the basics, you could really hurt yourself financially digging some money into these. I've done this for geez, 30 plus years. I've messed with cameras, and I've used most of the ones back in the day. I've used the Rollei back in the day. So now here's a Mamiya. This is another brand, Japanese, of course. These are unique. This is vintage. It's used. It's minty. It's got a lot going for this. Many people may not realize the value on these. It does look like a cheap camera when you look at it without picking it up, but it weighs a ton. This is a big, heavy camera. It's got extra lenses with it. Some of the lenses can sell for hundreds. Look at the price. This is very scarce. It's the whole bundle. It's just a nice example. Matching lenses, the whole works. $4,400. Now, these aren't crazy prices either. There's cameras that go up to $20,000, $30,000 on eBay. I'm not showing those because the chance of running into one of those is almost zip, for me anyway. Now, this name brand is one you should look for. A lot of vintage cameras. They look just like Nikons back in the day. Contacts. Now, this is another good example here. Carl Zeiss, same basic thing. Any of this style or design or shape are usually worth looking into for sure. almost $4,000. Again, you're not going to find these every day. You'd have to go to some higher-end auctions, but they do show up. I've seen these cameras for sale at a reasonable price where I could still make $1,000 on them. Again, you may have to sink thousands into something like this, but if you know what you're doing, it is not an issue, I promise you. Now here's a Hasselblad camera. This is a very nice one here. Another medium format. You can tell by the size, the shape. These weigh a little bit. Has the straps, the whole works. This is a professional unit here. $3,880. Now here's a Jaeger Locateur. Now I'm not sure how it's pronounced on that. I'm sure I butchered it. This is a vintage one that's been totally repaired, I would say. Totally spec'd out to, you know, manufacturer's standpoints. This camera here is a work of art in my book. It's just got everything going for it, even if it was just for a piece to look at. Stereophonic head. I mean, it does a lot of stuff. This is like the bomb, and I believe this is from the 30s, if I'm not mistaken on this one. Really nice, just really spectacular. It's just something, it's a compass camera. It's a really unique camera. Again, work of art in my book, $3,000. So some of the cameras, just by looks alone, you should be able to judge the quality on it. Now here's a Plauble. Now this brand is a well-known one, high-end. They don't look like much to those who don't know cameras, in my personal opinion. This is a Makina 670. Now I don't know all the brands, but if I see that name on one, I'm going to buy it. Now this one usually has a Nikon lens, which is exactly what you see here. Very good camera. They have serial numbers on most of these, and they're all individually numbered, and you can track down when they were made, if I'm not mistaken. $2,880. Now here's a Fuji TXI. Now TXI is a very expensive one. It's a pano camera. It has a 45mm lens. The lens alone can go for some good money. One thing, if you ever see the rectangular hood on the end of a lens, I usually would look more deep into that camera. Because, again, most of those are very expensive. Just to get the hood, the person, chances are, knows what they're doing in photography. It looks very plain. That's the point on this. Don't always think about how plain or fancy the camera is. That does not mean value for a camera. Look at the price, $2,800 on this one. Another vintage Nikon. This has a Nikkor lens, 50mm. It probably says Tokyo somewhere on it, or the model number is only a Tokyo. Now this is a rangefinder as well, and you can see the two viewpoints, one rangefinder and one viewer. So $2,790. This is the type of thing that may show up in a big box of junk cameras. Believe it or not, I found some extremely expensive cameras for $20 and $30 in a big lot at auctions on many occasions. And I've showed lenses and things like that as well. We buy it all. I've sold individual lenses that I bought in a junk lot for $10 or $15 for the whole lot, for hundreds of dollars for each one of the lenses. So any of this stuff is on my list to buy. Now here's a Nikon. This is a Nippon Kogaku camera. Now, I believe this model is very scarce from what I have seen. I have not run into one of these. But again, the Nikons all look very similar. The Nippon Kogaku is the lens manufacturer, I would say, on this one here. $860. It's a very nice example. It has the hood and the whole works with this. But yeah, the case as well. Whenever I see a case like this, I try and nab it real quickly. Even just the case, even if you don't know what it goes to, can sell sometimes for a couple $100, believe it or not. Depends on the case and it depends on the camera. But the true diehard camera people are going to know what the case goes to, even if you don't. So anyway, and let's just pop on to the last one here. This is a Nikon 28 Ti. Again, this one does not look like much. It's a point-and-shoot camera. Now, this is one you would just pull off a shelf. You don't have to be a camera aficionado to use this. That's the plus. It still went for $859. This is like the precursor to the cheaper modern-day camera where everybody has them. So anyway, that's about it on cameras. You just got to know what you're doing and investigate, search, and do a lot of research before you sink some big dollars. If it's at an auction or something and there's a huge box of items for just a few bucks, I always take a shot on those. Even at the end of the day, if all I can do is sell them as a big lot, I still always make a good return on my investment. So anyway, that's what I have for you. Well, there you are. Hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.